Welcome to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in the beautiful Fiserv Forum. As Milwaukee hosts its first NHL game since 1993, with this preseason game put on by the Blackhawks in their home away from home series against the Minnesota Wild. Like any great fall Sunday, we had to start off this journey with going down to the only Cleveland Browns bar in Milwaukee, and of course in typical Browns fashion, they let me down at the end of the game. But after a quick change, it's time to head down across the river and to the arena. I absolutely love this walk that I'm on through downtown Milwaukee. It's become a tradition that I do every time I go down to the Admirals game at the UWM Panther Arena. And the Fiserv Forum is basically right next door. I was on this journey today with my friend Sean, who's been in lots of other stadium review videos.
There you go, we're twinning.
And yes, we are totally twinning with the same Minnesota Wild jersey, but neither one of us are really Wild fans. We're both Columbus Blue Jackets fans, so by default, we really despise the Blackhawks.
Oh my god, it's red black. Oh, you love.
And you can see here the proximity between the two arenas, with only the empty lot where the Bradley Center used to be between the two. And I do have stadium reviews already of the Milwaukee Bucks at the Fiserv Forum and the Admirals at the Panther Arena. So be sure to check both of those out.
There's a lot of hockey.
Crosses the blue line, drops it in. Here comes Swaggy P again. From behind the net.
Now there were a lot of things to do in the Deer District. All the bars were open, patios were open, and they had a guy doing some hockey-themed basketball trick shots. But of course, one of the biggest crowds was watching the Packer game. It was really awesome to see so many hockey fans in Milwaukee, because that's not something you see a whole lot. And it was cool to see a lot of other jerseys besides just the Blackhawks and the Wild. However, we figured it was about 70-30, with the majority of people there being Blackhawks fans. And we're not really sure if those are local Blackhawks fans in Wisconsin or people that came up from Chicago, since it's only an hour and a half away. But regardless, it was a great draw. They put on a great pregame festivity show, and the tickets themselves actually sold out in just minutes. I was lucky enough to get a pre-sale code from being an Admiral season ticket holder. And speaking of tickets and codes, be sure to check out SeatGeek and use my code SAC Sports Adventures to receive $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Once in the stadium, we had to hit up the gift shop, which was completely taken over by the Blackhawks, and we had to grab ourselves some commemorative pucks. We headed straight to the lower bowl so we could check out the configuration in a stadium that was really only built to host basketball. And we also spied on the NHL officials some, because why not? The security staff was nice enough to let us go down to check out the warm-up, so we stood right next to the Chicago bench, and immediately we realized that this stadium was definitely not configured well to host hockey. Because right behind the bench, instead of the seats just gradually coming down to meet the back of the bench, they pushed them all back because the angles apparently weren't right. But it creates this really awkward, really bad looking gap right behind the team benches. And that same design is also mirrored on the far side, behind the penalty boxes. But even though the stadium didn't look great for hockey, it certainly sounded great.
Hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game. Third period. Last game of the playoffs, too.
When the lights went down before the players came out for warm-up, we could really see that the ice was not in great condition. However, that could just be the white tarp that they lay underneath having some wrinkles in it.
Seth Jones, I still love you!
We headed up the escalator to where our seats were in the upper bowl. And I love the view that you can get from the escalator looking down into the main entrance area as the fans still are streaming through the gates. This upper bowl is extremely steep, and it'll make you a little dizzy while walking down. but our seats were in the very front row right behind the Wild's shoot twice net. And you can really tell from up here that this upper deck is way too close to the ice. Because even with the steep angle, the seats are so close that when you lean back, you can't really see the net right below it. They played their normal pre-game hype video that I also saw when I was down in Chicago. But after that, they did have a special one just for Milwaukee, which was pretty cool. And the fans carried on the normal Blackhawks tradition, with during the national anthem, they cheer and applaud the whole time. Little did I know when I bought these tickets, but we actually have glass seats. The first period was pretty uneventful, with not a lot happening at either end of the ice.
1 minute remaining in the period. 1 minute.
Thank you!
Except for the scrum at the end, which people seem to really enjoy.
This is how you tell it's an uneducated hockey crowd, when they cheer more for fighting than for hockey.
And maybe I'm a little bit of a hockey snob in saying that, but if you want to watch fighting, then just go to a boxing match. People always say that Milwaukee should be considered for an NHL team, and as someone that lives in the area, I definitely do not agree with that statement. It's not really a hockey crowd, and even though they had a lot of people show up for this game, I think a lot of them were from Chicago. Or at least those from Wisconsin already seem to be loyal to the Blackhawks. And the fan base overall is extremely uneducated, as I've run into this issue a lot of the Admirals game as well. And obviously hockey literacy will come along with teams and exposure to the game. And speaking of which, the Admirals really don't draw a great crowd. They're about middle of the pack when it comes to attendance numbers, and last year they only drew about 4,700 fans per game, where the league average was 4,600 per game. And if Milwaukee thinks it deserves an NHL team, then they should definitely show up for their AHL team. Okay, rant over. The Wild took the lead about 4 minutes into the second period, but initially they put the score on the wrong side. And you can also see here in the stadium that behind the nets has a very similar design to behind the benches, with all the seats pushed back and emptied, which creates a really poor aesthetic and makes it look like the stadium's empty, when in fact it was a complete sellout. The Blackhawks had some power play opportunities as the second period wound down, but they weren't able to capitalize on any of them, and the fans started booing and yelling for them to shoot it anytime they touched the puck, even if they were on their own side of the ice.
Shoot it now!
And yes, we are mocking them because we've had several occasions now where we've been at hockey games and there's been someone right behind us yelling, "Shoot it," throughout the entire game. The Wild were able to find the net again midway through the second period to take a 2-0 lead. And very shortly after that, they put another one in the net to take the 3-0 lead. And those lads on the far side were definitely having themselves a good time. Throughout the third period, the Blackhawks fans expressed a lot of displeasure, and we saw a lot of this back in February when we went down to Chicago to see the Blue Jackets take on the Blackhawks, as the fans really turned on their players, and the same thing happened here, as some of them were even booing them off the ice at the game. And I mean, I was a little upset that we never got to hear Chelsea Dagger, because that is a banger of a goal song. But we did get Jump Around with the mascots trying to hype up the crowd.
It wouldn't be Wisconsin if you didn't have to jump around. Oh, I hope he falls.
One minute remaining in regulation time. 1 minute.
Thank you! Look at him. He's looking at it. He's looking at the 12 shots. He's not happy.
The Wild ended up taking the game 3-0, with the end being a little bit dismal, as all the Blackhawks fans headed for the gates early, and the atmosphere in the arena was definitely down. But I'm glad that the Blackhawks did salute the crowd, and hopefully they can bring this back and do it again next year, because it was a fantastic experience, and they did a really good job putting on the game itself.
Oh, that's good for a closer, eh?
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good closing shot indeed. Thanks so much for watching, see you soon. Thanks, bye.